go.
Well, today is May 26, 2020, and our country has logged in nearly 100,000 deaths since the COVID-19 virus was first widely reported nationally in early January. My name is Larry McClure, a member of the Tualatin Historical Society, and today I'm talking with Johnathan Crane, former owner of Tualatin Life newspaper and owner of Integrity Staffing, a temporary workforce recruiting firm here in Tualatin. We are assisted by Ross Baker, president of the society, using Zoom, which allows us to record both video and audio of this interview today. And as we sit here in our homes today, we're learning some new things about our world. And today we're going to discuss Johnathan's recent recovery from the virus. Thank you for allowing us to capture your story, Johnathan.
Well,
let's just start by asking how long you have lived in Tualatin and a bit about your family.
I've lived in Tualatin almost 21 years. Owned a home near Ivac Park. Love it. Always will. It's our home forever. Family. I have two kids, grown kids. My son's almost 26 and my daughter is 21. He works locally in production at a bakery. And my daughter Jennifer is 21 and she's at U of O. And they're kind of virtual world now of education by laptop, which is not her favorite thing. The college experience is being missed because it's not just about the academic, although that's a part of it. She's an honor student and gets, 4.0, but the college life is really limping along right now.
Certainly more than just academics, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
Yep. Well, I'm glad she's a duck. I was a duck once myself. Maybe I still am.
You're still a duck.
So anyway, Johnathan, let's just start with that virus thing. Could you describe how and when you think you might have contracted the virus?
I know exactly where I did. I met with a coworker very briefly on April 22nd. And the lesson I learned, which I hope others can pick up on, is that we've all been kind of either isolating or when we go out, most of us anyway are protected. We wear the mask and we have social distancing, which I honored very much as well, to the point where I'm kind of an avid walker. I go on walks all the time. And I would literally cross the street to avoid someone just to have the protocol and social, make them not uncomfortable. And I was really kind of vigilant about it. But boy, with people and I've noticed that I'm not alone in this, you tend to treat people that you know differently than strangers in terms of this. And my guard was down. Neither of us were masked. She's in charge of our Woodburn office, needed a couple of monitors because everyone's working remotely. Her monitors went on the fritz. I brought them down to her, talked to her for about, I don't think it was even 10 minutes, about 4 feet apart casually. She's healthy. Everything's great. Loaded them in her car and off she went. And I get to the car and I put on the antibacterial and off I go. And then 2 days later, she alerts me that she had some symptoms and was certainly feeling ill. And a couple of days later, she gets tested and it was positive. So that was a Sunday. And I knew at that moment that I needed to be isolated. And I did from the moment I heard that she was sick on Friday. And my wife, who's just a germaphobe to begin with, was on full alert. I might as well have been shipped to Siberia. I was in my room and I got meals to me. And luckily there's a back door so I could go out to the deck in the backyard and have a little bit of air and sunshine. But she was very vigilant because one of the things was, so anyways, you're wondering, you're waiting. So from the moment I met with Sonia till I started seeing symptoms myself was a week, full week. So in that week, you're stressed. You're going, God, I hope I don't have it. I don't think I have it. I actually felt great. I was active, doing walks, doing what I do, and going to work, and everything was kind of fine. And then I suddenly started feeling kind of spacey, like you feel like before you get a cold or a flu, you kind of feel just not dizzy, but not right. You just know something's up. And I go, uh-oh. And then, then all of a sudden on a week later, which is Wednesday, a full week after I met with Sonia, the symptoms ensued, got the fever, and I was very fortunate. I never at any point had a lung issue. That's the biggest fear, I think, of most people is the lung and the pneumonia and the whole hard to breathe thing. Never was a danger with me. But you don't know that. That's the problem. So the mystery of wondering, okay, I've only seen the news media cover this, and you see people attached to machines and, so I was hoping, well, gee, I hope I'm not one of them, but you're completely out of control. It's like you roll the dice and you just see where it all lands. And in my case, I was extremely fortunate. I had nasty headaches and a decent fever, body aches. It felt like a flu, but I did not have the lung. I never even coughed or had a sore throat or any of those things, which was really a huge difference between those people who really have I had a mild and moderate case. Those that have a more extreme case, well, once the lung gets involved, it's a lot worse, no matter your age. So that was really nice. So that's how I got, and then a couple days later, I went and had a test at Bridgeport Clinic, and yeah, it came out positive. The next day, I got the phone call, and then it ensued. And then, of course, was the wonder and guilt, which was tough, wondering if I exposed my family to it, because there was a couple days there where I probably could have, but the combination of isolating and Joanne's kind of paranoia, I think, helped avert that situation, because that would have been devastating. So the actual physical stuff was one thing. The mental anguish and brutal waiting, whether you wonder if you have it or not, and then how bad will it be, things that are out of your control, and did I expose anyone? These are things that were brutal to contend with, more so I thought than the symptoms themselves. I mean, it's fine. Get me sick, that's fine. The idea of getting my wife and daughter sick or others would have been guilt-ridden, crappy thing to have happen, and I'm very fortunate that that did not happen. So I think I had, in many ways, the best case scenario.
Good. Well, did you have any trouble getting that test you mentioned? We've heard there were problems in our state and nationally about getting the test when you think you wanted it, or when doctors thought you had to have it. But did you have any problems?
Not one bit. I went into the Bridgeport, like a urgent care center next to Claim Jumper, and without an appointment. I called first. They said, well, we open at 8. And I said, well, they could, and there's no one here, so you're welcome to come. What is not as equally reported is how empty hospitals are, because people fear going to them right now. So the parking lot was absolutely empty. I walk in, and right at the front door, someone's there to greet you. They're all wearing masks. I was wearing the mask. They're 6 feet apart. They asked what you're there for. I told them. And kind of the magic words for me is I was exposed to someone who I know is positive. Now, had I just said, oh, I have a headache, I don't know that they would have done it, because I didn't present that way. But as far as my case, I think I said the magic words of I was exposed. So they suddenly, oh, okay, well, and then and I don't know, again, how they would have treated otherwise, but I had zero problem. You fill out a little form. They say, go to your car, assuming you have a cell phone, and they say they'll call you in 3 to 4 minutes, and a nurse inside will call you. And then if they're going to have the test, they'll come out and meet you at the front and walk you in. That's exactly what happened. It was very seamless. I walked in, and of course they have all the doors open. You go into one room. I waited not even 5 minutes. An excellent PA physician's assistant came in, did the test. It was not a joy, but it wasn't as bad as people think. And that was that. So she checked the heart, the lungs, and things like that. And so it was very quick, very easy. And the next morning by 8:30, I was getting a phone call from that clinic. By 8:45, the county calls, Washington County, because they're aware of it simultaneously. And they're very Johnny on the spot about following up. And they asked who I was exposed to, when did I, so the fact that I had such a tidy little case of, I knew exactly the lineage, the time, the place, the where, the when, the how, that kind of made things, I think, a little bit easier. So that call was kind of short, and that was that. So then all they could say, there's no real medicine to give you. They just said, hydrate, rest, things like that. And if you have a fever, take Tylenol. That's all they could really tell you. So I did those things, and I never slept more. I drank like a fish, water, and it was really not a huge deal. The symptoms, it was annoying. I had trouble sleeping because I'd wake up sweaty, and the things that associated with the fever held true with me. And the headache behind my eyes was, I've never had a migraine, but I assume that's what it must be like. But I had such trouble that I started seeing blurry. And I actually went to the doc about it, because I called the hotline. There's an actual hotline that Providence has. And they said, well, that's the eyes, you ought to come on in, get it checked out. I did. And they basically said there's nothing that remarkable people about it. It's just one of those strange, there's a lot of strange symptoms, a lot of symptoms that are, everyone has a very unique case of this particular thing. So mine was that, and the vision was blurry. It actually still is slightly. That's one of the lingering things. I have really nothing lingering except for that. And I've always been an avid coffee drinker. Now the smell and the taste of it almost make me gag. I cannot explain it. A lot of people lose their sense of taste when they have COVID. I did not. Yet, and they say you lose your appetite. I did not. But this thing about coffee, I don't know, just a weird thing. I also, some strange symptoms, like my toes almost felt asleep for like several days, and I couldn't bend my little toes. They were like straight and almost cramp-like, and it was strange. So we all have different symptoms. So I slept so much, and ever since, I think I slept so much during that 2 weeks that I have had trouble sleeping, because I think I had so much sleep. I'm just done sleeping. So that's what happened. The fluids, the rest is important. I think I did all those things. I think the biggest thing of all, and it's not talked about nearly enough, is the immune system. I talked about my wife being a germaphobe, but she's also a health nut. And she has always focused on the immune system to prevent autoimmune issues, things like that. And every morning we start off with a shake, which includes turmeric, ginger, berries, zinc, multivitamins. That is not a reaction to COVID. That's been something she's been doing for 10 or 12 years. I really think that's a factor, because what happens is if your immune system is not good, and other conditions, if you're heavy, if you have diabetes, things are not in your favor. But if your immune system's good, boy, you have a lot of, it's a good running start in fighting this thing. And I actually ended up getting what's it called? Antivirus? No. Yeah, antibody test about a week ago, just to confirm that it's completely done and that I have those antibodies that makes me supposedly immune, which the doc called back and was excited, actually, because I was the first case that in his clinic. He said he's done over 300 tests. Not one has come back positive. I was the first one. I knew it would be positive because I had it and it ended, which means that the antibodies must have taken effect and done what they're supposed to do. So my little army of antibodies was effective in fighting it off, and now they exist. So therefore, this doc said, because I can't prove it, but I would say with very good confidence, you are immune. You cannot get it. You cannot give it from here forward for probably at least a couple of years, until the virus might, mutate and come out differently, like the flu does every year. And this might or might not change, but he doesn't think it will change probably for 2 or 3 years. So he can't promise it, but he felt pretty strong in assuring me that I am now immune and cannot spread it.
Was there any contact tracing rather for your employee in Woodburn to see who else she might have been in touch with?
No, to my knowledge, no. Her family did not get it. They isolated once she got it as well. And I mean, some people's immune systems, and you know, she's younger and her family's younger, so maybe that was a factor, but it just didn't seem to spread like the wildfire that, you know, you hear about, because, you know, it was pretty evident that, you know, when you have it, you know it, and you just back off. The problem is that, like in my case with Sonia, and what I feared also about my situation, you are most contagious, they say, a couple of days prior to seeing symptoms. So while I didn't get it till day 7 after exposure, I apparently, without having any symptoms, be completely asymptomatic, was highly toxic or contagious about 2 days before I showed symptoms. And that's why this thing is just spreading, because people don't have any idea they have it. Spread to others before they even feel symptoms. By the time you feel symptoms, yes, you definitely are contagious. But they say 7 days after your test of positive, you're generally good to go. But a better measure is 72 hours after symptoms leave you. So in my case, I just waited the full 2 weeks, and the symptoms started, once the fever started going down about after 7 days, then I was kind of like one by one, these other little things started going away. But the fever was never that intense, never got over 100.3 or 100.4, but it was steady. It just was like there. And if you've had a fever, normally it's like you have it for a day or so. Having it for extended time where I was drinking so much water and then basically sweating it out. Sleeping was disgusting. I was waking up completely drenched. And it was just weird. And when you're up in the middle of the night and you're watching God knows what, CNN, and you're seeing these horrible news reports, it is very scary. The fear factor in this was as much of a factor as anything. The reality was my case was not that intense. I lived to tell about it, not a big deal. But the fear of wondering when, if you're going to get it, how bad will it be? You can't help but the little loop you see about, all the people in the hospital dying and posting each day, how many cases, how many deaths, and they show people. But, you and I both, Larry, understand news and the news business. They don't show the house that's not on fire. And that's kind of the case here. I've noticed a lot of people who I, have heard of, because when I put it on Facebook, a lot of people reached out to me, private message or whatnot, and asked about it. Hey, it's funny, my cousin had it, or my brother had it, my whatever. And a lot of the cases that I heard about were a lot more like mine than the ones you see about on the news. That you're sick, but you're not fearing for your life. So that was my situation.
Do you ever wonder if you'd adequately prepared your family if you did have to go to the hospital and didn't come back?
I'm prepared. I feel, I'm prepared that way, definitely.
Yeah. And your family is still not showing any symptoms, you said. Did you stay in the same room the whole time?
No, I was isolated. No, we were, from the moment I heard that Sonia had it, I was isolated from them and still feared that there's some chance of exposure, but they did not have it. So no, I did not fear giving it to them. I did, but I mean, once I was isolated, there was really little chance of exposure. And after 2 weeks, it was pretty evident. And they also got tested and were negative because they started, the psychology is intense. After I got it, suddenly my daughter says, I think I have a sore throat. And of course you leap to oh my God, I'm getting COVID, I'll definitely die. And that's not the case. And my wife too was like, I was feeling tightness in my chest. I wonder, because your mind really messes with you, as I could attest to, is when I first heard Sonia got it, you can imagine, you just watch the news, you go, you're terrified. And that is a factor that was more stressful than any ailment or symptom I had. I can promise you that.
Did Sonia have a serious case?
No, it's very much like mine. It almost was the exact same time frame. Like about the first 7 days weren't fun, but then you started getting better. But you definitely weren't right yet, but you were better, and that was encouraging. But then you read, like, if Chris Cuomo on CNN talks about how about a week in he started feeling better, but then kaboom, then he got really hit hard. So I was worried about, is the other shoe gonna drop now? But it didn't. Same thing with Sonia. And hers lasted about 7 or 8 days of sick, and then another few days of kind of just getting better. And you still want that. I was weak. I did lose a pound or two, but I just felt weak, like from sitting in your hiney too much. And that was something that, I guess it's been about 2 weeks since I have been recovered. Walk every day, lifting some weights, eating better, getting a lot more air and sun. So it's definitely behind me. And it was never, frankly, that horrid during. It was uncomfortable, but yeah, you definitely have a good chance of living to tell about it.
Good. So have you other friends or acquaintances you know of that did contract the virus?
A couple people in my, yes. But I heard of one case that was super horrible. Because on Facebook, a bunch of friends and people, I know someone. So the network's kind of huge. So the odds of finding someone, both of the people that told me that they had it, one that had the really bad case where he was hospitalized for 6 weeks was in Southern California, who had been traveling around Asia at, a couple of months ago, contracted it, came home, got it. And it was a really, really bad case. Young, healthy guy. I'm 57 and he was in his late 40s. And so you just think, oh, only old people. Well, not so true. And this guy had a real tough time with it. Was hospitalized. Was on he was intubated, getting oxygen for weeks. And but he came out of it too. I've not known anybody who's died from it. I mean, personally.
What do you think is going on with our news these days and the public health recommendations? Do you think these are all fair and accurate?
Well, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Everyone's case is different. I don't know if you're referring to the people, I guess, boycotting the whole concept of isolation and social distancing. There's obviously, it almost seems like you could tell someone's political party these days if they have a mask. Well, they're not. You know, if they don't have a mask, they're a Trump supporter, and if they do have a mask, they're normal. So that's kind of how I break it down. I guess it's simplistic, but I think the news has been. It depends. Obviously, Fox says, this ain't nothing, and CNN and MSNBC are much more, I guess, vigilant about seeking the truth and trying to convey it, and having live reports each day from, for example, Andrew Cuomo and others who kind of preach the I don't know, wisdom of isolation. But there's that fine line. People now, you could just tell, are sick of it. And this weekend, I take walks each day where I go on an overpass the freeway. I'm telling you, every day I see more and more traffic. This is in so many ways kind of becoming over because people are sick of it. Not that the virus understands that it's over, but people are sick of it. And they're just saying, screw it. I'm just going to go do what I got to do because I just want to live. What's the use of living? I think that's taking over right now. And with the opening of business and all that, but the media, yeah, it's been skewed. It's pretty predictable as who would say what. That you know, Trump TV will say this is nothing. Take some Clorox. Call me in the morning. The other stations will say things like, they'll report the news. So it kind of depends which way you lean. Obviously, you know which way I lean. But I'm not surprised at the news. I'm surprised at the news conferences and the reaction of the federal government. I think that's been horribly misplayed. Still is. The lack of leadership, I think, is costly. And I think that was the real, we shot ourselves in the foot. That's just inexcusable. I can't explain it. Why even today there's no consistent plan by the federal government of how to open cautiously. We all want it to open. We just want to do it safely.
How do you regard our state of Oregon in that regard?
In the middle. They're not. I think that Kate Brown did a nice job, and also she had an interview on MSNBC, which I thought was spectacular. Never heard her sound so articulate and confident. I always find her to be a little bit mousy, but in this one, she was really promoting the state of Oregon, and that was the day that they sent ventilators to the state of New York, or the city of New York, when they were having that crisis of ventilators, and it was really well received. So they got the governor on the air and had an interview, and she really represented well. They're in a pickle. I mean, if you say stay at home, well, you're paranoid. If you say, oh, don't worry about it, well, you're reckless. They're kind of in a pickle, like we all are. And so the government, I mean, they have to err on the side of caution. If they didn't, you fault them for that. So I don't find her moves obnoxious, out of the ordinary, uncalled for. I think that there's no prescription for this. Everyone's winging it. And I think she's doing as good a job as you could do.
So back to the personal relationships, what recommendations have you passed along to your friends about your own experience?
Well, specifically the part about not putting your guard down, letting your guard down with people that you know, even family. Because there's a tendency, and I see it, like I walk in near Ivac Park and people who are neighbors, they just almost cuddle up to each other because you know someone. Whereas the same person might be seeing a stranger and boy, they're 50 feet away and paranoid at that. So the letting your guard down in my instance was the familiarity of someone that I knew. I didn't treat as someone that was a stranger. That right there is the difference. At least it was with me. So that's the one bit of wisdom I would impart on people is to realize that everyone could carry it, whether they're healthy, young, old, doesn't matter. They can be carriers and be asymptomatic and be completely unwittingly giving it to you. It's nothing personal. It's a virus.
You see some positive things that have come out of this so far in our community and your relationships and our nation, maybe.
Well, not everybody has a unique position to be able to, like I own a company and I have people who are able to work remotely. Now, so I can only speak for me. So I have been able to, I find this a remarkable time in history, actually, because people have slowed down. It took a pandemic to do it. But you know what? I get up later. Our office used to be, of course, 8 to 5, actually 7:30 to 5. Now it is 9 to 3. No one's missing a beat. I find people more relaxed. People are frustrated because they can't do what they want to do, go out and drink and have dinner and stuff. But interesting, I'm walking more. I'm listening. I'm reading more. I'm listening to more music. My life has slowed down. I happen to think that's a good thing. I wish society in general would. We notice less pollution, for example, in Los Angeles. I even read a report that in Venice, Italy, where if you've been, you've seen those canals, like where the gondolas, the guys are there. Well, that water looks like sludge. It's like the worst thing ever could be falling in the water there, I would have to think. Well, it turns out after a few weeks of COVID and no one's doing anything, the water cleared up. And you know what? The fish came back. I mean, the world might have needed to get a kick in the ass. And I think this might actually do that in some small way. I think there's a lot of benefit into people realizing, you're not that busy. You're not that damn important. Slow down, take a breath, reflect, love those who count, play on, move along.
That's some great advice to pass on and observations, Johnathan. Speaking of your business, have you noticed some changes in your business, not regarding how your staff are working, but what kind of inquiries are you getting or needs are you seeing out there coming?
Well, like everybody, I completely panicked when all this first hit about slowing down. I thought, okay, every business will be closed. Life as we know it will stop. All commerce will stop. And then secondarily, we have a staffing business, and they're putting on these new federal measures where suddenly sick pay, which used to be only kind of with internal people or people who are your own employee, now they're going to extend it to even temporary workers, and there's no minimum time frame. It doesn't have to. Used to be after 90 days, then the sick pay kicks in. Now it's like doesn't matter. Sick pay you pay, and then the Family Leave Act, which means I'd have to pay someone who says I'm sick. Or my wife is sick. I need to take care of her. I need 12 weeks paid, and I was like, that would be crushing. I was doing the math. My calculator was like, it's a bad dream. And I was literally, I am not kidding, thinking, I talked to my attorney, my accountant, my banker, and my financial planner. All agreed with me, probably time to pull the plug. It's been a good run, been 20 years in this business, but everything's stacked against you. And you might want to pull out now, because I figured, okay, no one's going to be able to pay their bills, even if they were billing. I just kind of had this Armageddon, all hell's breaking loose sort of feeling about it. Well, okay, another thing, I've always said that there's always an element of luck in a successful business. I am a recipient of that luck. I have been on several occasions over many years, but this instance, I didn't really take into account. Well, then the word essential business came to be a big word. How many of my businesses that I work with are essential? I deal with mainly light industrial manufacturing, which means businesses that are in the supply chain, production, like locally Pacific Foods, some of these large bakeries that are essential business. So while I thought business would go to zero, it was off 15, maybe 20%, but the majority of our accounts also kind of like hunkered down. But then in just a couple of weeks, things are kind of back to normal. I mean, because they realized, you know what, we need to get product out and we need workers to do that. And we have not seen that massive, devastating blow, like for example, retailers or restaurants have, where they're just shut down. I feel so much sorrow for them. In our case though, we're off a little bit, but nothing like I thought. And the beauty of our business is that if you're off a little bit and your sales are down, well, then your payroll is also down. So it's not that devastating, really. We're doing fine. It was more like so many things. The fear was enormous, but when cooler heads prevailed, and I did not end up, pulling the plug, I stuck with it, and happy I did. And also the thought about how am I going to do this with people, and then working remotely ended up being not so bad. We have Zoom meetings every morning. Everyone's kind of doing their thing, and volume's slow, but the same thing I said about more of a relaxed feeling is definitely not lazy, but relaxed. So people I have, they're not working until 5. And what is the point? And we almost never do that much business between 3 and 5 but everyone's kind of habitually hooked on these schedules then you get on and you finish work and you jump on the traffic like everybody else. And it's this enormous mess, this chaotic, habitual mess. I think that my staff is enjoying the benefits in some ways of this new schedule and people working from home. So I have a mother with a young child. She's able to be with him more. I have someone who takes care of their mother, a different employee. These are good things. And also, why I used to get up at 6:05 every single day, was at work at 7:15 every single day. I don't know why there was this self-imposed schedule on everybody. I think that this has helped everyone kind of realize, like I said, we're not that important in the scheme of things. What is important is your family, your health. So I think it's been good for a lot of businesses. It's been devastating for many, no question about it. But in our situation, our employees, I think, are doing more in less time, which I'm all about. I don't care about, I'm never impressed with the guy who says, oh, I work 80 hours a week. I'd be more impressed with the guy who does more in 30 hours than the guy who does 80 hours. So personally, I think it's great. There are people with a more condensed schedule. And I think this will hopefully spread, because who needs the traffic from 3 to 5? You don't even want to drive around town at 3 to 5 or 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, because it's ridiculous traffic. Now it's just kind of a breeze. And in some ways, I know that will end when things open up more, but it's kind of been nice.
So you were able to retain your staff?
Yes.
Good.
I had one person who left us because she, her husband got a job offer in Washington, so she took that. And frankly, I know this to be true. She won't say it, but I know she knew that her job was in peril, because that was the same week that I couldn't hide the fear I had. I was like, man, I don't see getting out of this thing. It was so ugly when it first happened, and you don't know where, how far the sky would fall. And once I realized that we in fact will survive and thrive, she was already long gone. And I don't blame her for making the choice, because her husband had a solid offer up there. They took it. She has family up there. I don't blame her. But no, our staff is solid and together. And even when we've had sick people, other people stepped up. I admire that so much. I have a tremendous staff and very thankful for them.
Did you receive any of that federal funding designed to help during this time?
Yeah, we're part of the PPP program, which has been magnificent. It has done what it's supposed to do. I don't agree with I don't think it'll buy what the government thinks it will buy, but it helped. In a nutshell, I think they wanted to keep people off the state unemployment rolls and have you, essentially the federal government, pay you to pay them to keep them off those state rolls. That's what I think.
Right.
To that end, we accomplished that. You have to maintain in the year 2019, our average number of employees was 157, and our payroll was whatever it is. The obligation is to keep that high, to keep those numbers exactly the same. So we had to basically hire back people. Some people are actually getting money for not even working, just like people on unemployment. But they wanted us to reach out to them versus them going to the state and getting in queue over there. So we have employed more people. We've also discounted some rates to clients to keep some of these people who don't really have a job, but we get them places. It's amazing how a discount can work. We're not a typical discounting operation. It's not like a pizza. But we found that when we contact clients, we do a mass email saying, hey, we've got this production people, we can knock off this % of the bill rate, because frankly, the government's paying for it. So I don't think it's going to buy the government what they think it will, like I mentioned, but it's helped on a local level to some degree. And it certainly has helped keep some people off the state's unemployment, which has been kind of a monster.
Are you seeing people trying to get jobs again now?
Ooh, not as much as I would have thought, with employment being 20%. I also think people need to retool. I don't know how many, I don't think a lot of restaurants will come back. I think a lot of people consider themselves who might have some soft skills, not intense like a trade, and they're a waiter or they work at a retail store or they deliver, and this is a good time. You know what is not let up is production workers, machinists, lathe operators, CNC programmers. The semiconductor industry, which is huge in Tualatin, not just Lamb Research either, has nothing but demand right now. So in our world, there's actually a lot of demand for people, not seeing a ton of them knock on our doors. And I think there's a little bit of a unemployment hangover right now where people aren't really yet acknowledging. They keep thinking everything will come back and it's just a matter of when, and it'll just come right back to normal. I would caution some people who have been addicted to retail, as in working there forever. They might want to retool. A lot of companies are very excited to help them do this. And there's programs to help them learn on the job, getting paid while they're doing it. I would encourage people to do that. Although my words have fallen on deaf ears. I've put a lot of posts about that and no one seems to think that's true. I happen to think it's true. These industries haven't felt so much as a blip, and they're solid, and I won't say they're recession proof, but they are certainly COVID proof.
So let's look to the future. What do you think Tualatin will be like in the future after this is over? Let's say 1, 5, or 10 years.
Boy, so hard to answer that, Larry. It depends on your position on so many things. If you believe that people should ultimately just get it and the herd, what is it called? The herd something or other, then I think people should get it and be over it like I am. So I'm immune and I can't spread it to others and I can't get it. If I knew that the case could be as mild as mine was versus the ones you see on the news reports, well, I'd have dove in and I'd have kissed somebody with COVID just to get it over with and be done with it. And my wife says the same. My wife right now regrets that she didn't get it from me. But of course, you don't have only in hindsight do you know how bad the case will be. And so, and even though she gets it from someone that had a mild case, doesn't mean her case would have been mild. But I think the reopening, I think, will ultimately happen. I don't think it will require a vaccine to be out and about. I think those people who are at the age group and health category that need to be careful should do just that. But I think the rest of the world needs to kind of get on with it to some degree. It's crushing our economy. It's crippling to people with small kids at home. I know a couple of people who, I didn't even think about it because my kids are grown, but he can't even work because he's like suddenly teaching is, it's a married couple and they have 2 kids, like 5 and 8, nothing but homeschooling, dog walking, clean. It's claustrophobic feeling. And he told me how he's kind of had to, he's an attorney and has to just almost have a lot fewer billable hours. So it's really hurting him financially. I hadn't even thought about that because, if you don't have that situation, like having small kids at home, you don't think about that, but that would be a bear. So I think people are very anxious to get life back to normal. There will be some casualties in the process, but the idea of isolating everyone so that a few don't get it is obviously the controversy. I don't think this chronic isolation is sustainable for our economy. But I don't think it's even the economy that's the huge driver here. I think it's humanity. I think people need people. People are social. People are sick and tired of it. And their impatience and insistence on doing what feels good will win the day, unfortunately. As you see in today's news about the places that have opened, Texas and the beaches in Florida, just packed as could be. No social distancing whatsoever. Because people think that they'll be mind over matter. I'm so curious how these people that went to these places, if there's a spike there in a week or two, I would certainly think there would be. So this is a huge pickle that society's in, and that is certainly where leadership would have been really awesome. Unfortunately, with that missing so vividly, people are left to their own thinking, and it becomes political and stupid. I saw a rally over the weekend on television in Los Angeles. People, with stop the oppression, like the government's doing it, like like they're being oppressed, and with that mentality. And I'm not kidding. I really think it's become political to the point where people that wear masks are, oh, there must be a liberal, and those that don't, oh, they're obviously not. And that's quite ridiculous, but that's where we're at right now.
Well, thank you, Johnathan, for this time today. I know you're a busy guy with a business to run, but I think it's instructive for those who hear this and see this in the future to see what one of our leaders in town has gone through during this pandemic of 2020. Not like the one of 1918, maybe, but maybe it is. So, again, any further comments you'd like to say, Johnathan?
No, I think you've covered it very well, and I appreciate it very much. And I hope if it helps one person, I'm thrilled about it. So, and I hope to see you in Puerto Vallarta sometime soon.